Hello and welcome to the National League Lowdown. Dan unfortunately can't be with us today, so I'll be hosting today's podcast. My name's Craig and nice to hear you all with us today. As always, I'm joined by Mark. How are you today, Mark? Are you well?
Well, we're going to be covering quite a small subject, so yeah, let's see what we can get to, if we can get to the root of all this. It's been quite extraordinary.
Absolutely. So yes, today we are joined by Simon from Same Old City Pod. We've had Ben on previously. They are York City fans, and the reason they're with us today is that the breaking news that came out around early morning to start into late afternoon with the news of Adam Hinshelwood leaving York City, and then suddenly the replacement coming in immediately, which is Stuart Maynard. So we'll get straight on with it, Simon. But first, how are you?
Yeah, not doing too bad, thanks. It was my first day back at work after a holiday today, and I thought, I'll just ease myself back in. And then, that news breaks in the morning, and then suddenly it's just trying to deal with this, unexpected bit of news.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's crack on with it. First things, how did you feel when you heard the news? Was there a surprise, or did you see it coming from the outside? It seemed very much a surprise. But as a York City fan, do you feel the writing's been on the wall the last couple of weeks with performances, or even going as far back as Oldham in the playoff semi-final?
Yeah, I wouldn't say the writing's been on the wall in terms of the start of the season. I think, it was a surprise for me, and I think for most people. But having said that, it wasn't a complete shock because there'd been quite strong rumours after the Oldham game, just after the end of last season, that Hinshelwood was going to be leaving, and he was linked to other jobs in the league, and there was a bit of an ongoing saga for a while, and obviously it was all kind of sorted out one way or another, but there was still this feeling bubbling under that maybe the relationship between the owners and Hinshelwood had broken down a bit, and we'll probably come on to the reasons why that might be, but it wasn't as shocking to a York fan as it might seem from the outside, because like I say, there's been a bit of a weird vibe ever since that Oldham game. That something's been a bit odd behind the scenes. So yeah, shock and sadness. Hinshelwood gave us probably the best season we've had in my entire time supporting the club, and our second highest ever points total in the club's history. So yeah, it's I think I've gone through the 5 stages of grief in one day, to be honest. Starting out with denial and just about arriving at acceptance now.
Yeah, so it has been a bit of a shock to the outside. Obviously, as you said, we don't know what's happening, but we've heard obviously potentially in the summer there was maybe some contract negotiations that broke down, leading to him only having 1 year left on his contract.
Yeah, I mean, there's not been any kind of official confirmation of any of this, but there's lots of talk that goes on social media and message boards, and things get out. It very much seems like there was a long-term contract on the table, partway through last season, and supposedly it was going to be signed, and then it never was signed, and that's potentially one reason why this decision's eventually been made. If Hinshelwood has just been refusing to commit his future to the club, there's rumours that maybe there was a big sort of release clause in a new contract that was being put in front of him, and that's why he didn't want to sign it. Then maybe that relationship's just broken down. But yeah, at the same time, if we're worried about losing him to a football league club and not getting compensation, well, now we've lost him anyway. So it doesn't completely add up. But I suspect it's that relationship breakdown rather than just the fact that we haven't had the best start to the season. Because if you're just looking at it on football reasons, 4 games in, still unbeaten, it would be absolute madness to base it on that. So I think there's a more fundamental schism between the ownership and the management, and they thought about, making that break over summer. I think potentially Maynard was lined up then. It didn't happen, but now perhaps the fact that we didn't start that well and we've got a 2-week break to the next game, they thought, right, well, if we're ever going to do it, let's do it now and give the new manager the best chance to, come in with plenty of the season still to go at.
Well, I'm going to put this to you. If there was talk over the summer, there was even something put out that Hinshelwood had actually got sacked in the summer, which proved to be untrue. Why do you think the owners would have let him go out and get the likes of Ollie Banks, Alex Newby, just to name 2 players, and really enforce the squad if they didn't really think that his commitment was 100% there? Do you think the owners, did they allow Hinshelwood to go out and buy these players in the hope that it is worth extending my contract? It does seem a little strange if they gave him plenty of money to spend on players, whether they're free or not, just to get rid of him before those players have really settled in.
Yeah, I don't think it's really that they were Hinshelwood signings necessarily. I don't think that's the way recruitment has been working at the club. It's more, there's a recruitment team that the owner's part of, and there's, data analysts and stuff like that. And Hinshelwood's involved with that, but I don't think it's that Hinshelwood, that he's been given a budget and he's gone out and signed Ollie Banks and Mark Kitchen and players like that. It will be that, there's been a short list of players. Maybe he's got a veto that he can say, no, I don't want that one, I don't want that one. But it's not that, Ugler's always been quite clear that, that there needs to be a playing style and forward planning for the future that isn't dependent on who's the manager at one time, because that can change in football, and it does quite quickly. So it's not that these are Hinshelwood signings, really, which is different to last season, when obviously he brought quite a few players he'd worked with before, the likes of Ollie Pearce and Joe Felix, Harrison Mayle as well. It felt like, they were coming because they'd worked under Hinshelwood before, and that was the connection. Whereas this season, it's a different profile of player, I do wonder how much the idea was already there that, okay, well, we might actually end up with a different manager, so let's bring in players that could work, under a different manager, rather than ones who are completely tied to Hinshelwood.
It's very interesting. Obviously, you say there's these players that are potentially tied to him. Do you have any worries that they may potentially be unhappy now and potentially looking to move on, especially if Hinshelwood does find a new job potentially in League Two as such? Do you reckon he'd come knocking for Joe Felix and potentially Ollie Pearce and Harrison Mayo, as you said?
I think he probably would do, yeah. But I mean, the first thing is, obviously he hasn't got a Football League job yet at the moment. And the deadline's in 3 days, so we probably don't have to worry about it till January. The other thing is, obviously we've got quite deep pockets, so we don't necessarily have to accept any bids for our top players, even if they are coming in. But yeah, it does feel like some players are more tied to the Hinshelwood project and the Hinshelwood playing style. So that is a bit of a concern, but I think, Joe Felix very much seems like a model pro. I don't think he's going to down tools now that Hinshelwood has gone. He's still going to be a massive player for us. Same with Ollie Pearce, I would say, but long term, they don't feel as secure maybe in the future at the club as they did under Hinshelwood. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, I guess, and how they fit into the new manager's style. But yeah, well, I guess we'll move on to that soon.
No, absolutely. So when we obviously heard the news and was looking to get you on, I was starting to look at potential replacements and was looking forward to throwing a few names at you to see who you'd like and kind of what process you expect them to go down. And would it be a short process or a long process? And then obviously that bubble was burst pretty quickly as the announcement of Stuart Maynard was obviously made. What were your first thoughts on that? Do you feel like it's been going on behind the scenes, as you said, quite early, or do you think that they've rushed the appointment?
I think it must have been happening in the background already. I know Stuart Maynard was at the Oldham game as well, so I think there was an existing relationship with the ownership. He was someone that they knew and were already in contact with. In terms of when they made contact with him about taking over as manager, I'm guessing they didn't wait until Hinshelwood left at 10:30 this morning. It might be that it's been in the last couple of days. It might be that conversation's been happening a little bit longer than that, but that's kind of similar to how Hinshelwood arrived here. He was the man we identified to take over from Neil Ardley, and then he took over fairly soon after that. So yeah, it seems like it's been lined up that okay, he'll be the new man, and I think in terms of the fan reaction's been, I guess, quite underwhelmed, but it's difficult because it's all happened so quickly. There's the reaction to Hinshelwood leaving, and then a few hours later you've got to react to who the new man is. So we didn't really have time to even think of other candidates. Luke Williams was being mentioned a bit as well. Obviously another Notts County link, and a few people were hoping we might try and poach Dean Brennan from Barnet, but obviously it's difficult to get
That
someone.
would have been a tough one.
There definitely does seem to be a little bit of a link there, because obviously Maynard's first roles in coaching were alongside Dean as well. So there may be a kind of a very good link between the owners and that kind of little group. So it'll be interesting to see if his style stays the same as it has in previous clubs, or he's worked very closely with Dean Brennan. If he tries to kind of be very similar to Barnet, which is obviously probably a philosophy. That's to put my teeth back in after that one for the new owners and what they want. Do you think there'll be a massive change in playing style, or do you think it's going to be quite similar? Because ultimately, the playing style you've had hasn't been disastrous. If anything, it's been very successful.
Yeah, I mean, it's been successful and it's been very entertaining as well. Most fans would tell you. There was some really high scoring games, attacking football last season. I mean, I haven't seen that much of Maynard's sides. I understand he favours possession-based football. He's very big on dominating possession, so in that sense there should be similarity. It seems like he plays three at the back, which we have never really done under Hinshelwood, so that might be a little bit of a change. But I'd say broadly, it's not like we're bringing someone in who's suddenly going to be asking us to lump it up to the big man up top. It's going to be a bit similar. Listening to Notts County fans' sort of descriptions of Maynard's football, the only concern is they say it's sometimes a bit slow and ponderous, and there's a lot of just possession for possession's sake and passing it around at the back. Whereas sometimes we've been like that under Hinshelwood, but when we've been best is when we've been like moving the ball quickly forward, not just slow passing between the defenders. So yeah, the hope is that he can keep the best bits of what we saw in Hinshelwood, but maybe add a few other things, or try this three at the back style, and see whether that can be equally successful, or if not more so.
I'm just thinking here, Simon, is there any niggling doubts in the back of your mind? I can ask you this directly as a York City fan. Do you think that the owners will give him the time to actually stamp his authority on the York City side, or is there a little bit of doubt that if it doesn't work after X amount of games, there'll be somebody else coming in? Where do you stand on that one now that you've had a bit of time to process who, what, where, when, and why, and how?
Yeah, I think that's a big doubt, not just a little one. Is it seems like on the face of it, we're getting rid of a manager quite rashly, and when he was building a project and when he had been successful, just based off, like I say, if you just look at footballing reasons, it's based on basically losing one game quite badly at the end of last season, and then having a bit of a slow start in the first 4 games. So yeah, I think, is he going to be given the time is a very good question. The other way you could look at it is, if it is that Hinshelwood wasn't committing long term to the project, and maybe we want someone in who will do that. That could be the other way of looking at it, is to say, well, it's thinking long term because it's getting someone in who's going to be here beyond the end of the season, so that we don't you don't have to worry about, oh, is he going to sign a new contract, or are we going to have to move on? We can just say, okay, this is the man now who's in place. But if we're, not in the top 3 towards the end of the season, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Maynard was moved on as well, just based on track record of how quickly we seem to change managers, not just under this ownership, but previous ones as well. So no, I wouldn't have a lot of confidence that he's going to be given time. So I just hope he can start quickly. And yeah, because the expectation this season is promotion, and I'm sure that will have been communicated to him. So if he doesn't achieve it, yeah, I can see the owners saying, okay, well, let's look elsewhere again.
That links us on perfectly to kind of our final question for you today. I was going to ask what are the aspirations of the owners, but you obviously believe it hasn't changed in the slightest. It is win the league at all costs, which it was at the start of the season. Do you think if he doesn't do that, he'll get a chance at the playoffs? Or do you reckon if they're struggling after 20, 30 games and maybe a Southend or a Carlisle are 10 to 15 points ahead, that it will be another change? And then finally, what are your aspirations now for the season? Have you got the positivity that, yep, he's going to come in and we're going to challenge? Or have your aspirations maybe slightly dampened and you've downgraded them slightly?
In terms of my aspirations, I mean, aspirations obviously is to win the league, but my level of confidence that we might do that has definitely dropped, because I think it's always going to take a new manager time to bed in with the side. And I can see in the little graphic there, we got previous winners of the National League. I'm just going through them: Barnet, Chesterfield, Wrexham. They're all teams that built with the same manager, gradually improved season on season. And that's what I thought we were going to do under Hinshelwood. There's not many teams who change manager mid-season and win the league, although I think Stockport did actually. But yeah, that is harder, I think, than going season to season. And you saw at Notts County, Maynard did better in his second season than he did when he joined halfway through the season. So yeah, I'm less confident now. I still think, based on the quality of the squad, we should be making the top 7. It would be, yeah, I'd find it hard to imagine. This will probably come back to bite me, but I'd find it hard to imagine us not finishing in the top 7, to be honest, because the squad is as good as it was last year, because all the same players are here basically, with several additions who, some of them are taking a bit of time to bed in, but we can see that, that there's quality players there with Banks and Newby and people like that. So yeah, will he be given time if it doesn't all go well? Like I say, possibly not, but you'd hope he at least gets given to the end of the season if we're in and around the playoff mix. But yeah, winning the league. In our predictions on our season preview episode, me and Ben both put York top, and that wasn't just us being, thinking, oh yeah, we're brilliant because we're York. We genuinely thought, okay, we should be winning the league with the squad we've got. Based on what we did last season, we should be able to go on better. That looks a lot more complicated now. Not impossible, but If
So
I was
as a podcast, we had you, Callum, social media had you in first, so he fully agreed with you. Mark and Dan had you in second place, and I actually had you in third. But I said the top three, I included Rochdale and Carlisle in that. You could have gone any way. Obviously, Rochdale seems to have started really well. Carlisle have started pretty well as well. So do you think that's maybe sensed that little bit of panic because other teams and Southend mentioned they have started very strongly? If Rochdale and Southend especially were dropping a few more points, do you reckon you'll be a little bit calmer, or is the other teams' starts not having any impact on you really? It's solely focused on York.
I think you've got to kind of block out the noise this early in the season of not worry too much about what other teams are doing. I mean, I think, I put Rochdale second in my predictions as well, and Southend and Carlisle were the other two. Forest Green have surprised me actually how well they've started, but there's definitely some strong teams, but and they've all started well. But I think it's 10 or 15 games in that you can actually look at the table and say who are the challengers. Like last season, I think Eastleigh won their first 4 games or something, and then they ended up finishing, comfortably mid-table. So
we did have a good joke the other day that you were in 12th, but we did then quickly point out it's a very false table at the moment. Because you guys obviously have played a game less than the majority, and we are only 4 or 5 games in, so we don't expect you to still be down in 12th come the end of the season.
Yeah, no, it's a bit different this season as well because we can't play at our home ground for over a month because of the Women's Rugby World Cup that's happening there. Obviously, we played at home first game of the season, but that we then got 4 away games in a row. We've played 3 of them, but we've also got, I think, 3 match days that other teams are playing that we miss. So by the time we play next, we'll still have only played 4 games. Everyone else will have played 7, or nearly everyone else. So the league was always going to be a bit misleading at that point because we've played so many fewer games. But
he could be in the relegation zone by the time he takes charge of his first game.
Potentially, yeah. But I think you've just got to kind of ignore that until sort of October time when we've caught up with games in hand and stuff, and everything started to settle a bit. If we're bottom half, then maybe we'll start to worry.
Excellent. Mark, any questions you'd like to add before we get a little plug from Simon on about the Same Old City pod?
No, I think we've more or less covered absolutely everything. We're going to the closing thought from me is the time. Give Stuart Maynard the chance to put his stamp, put his authority on the team. He might want his own players as well, but with a squad of York's quality, he should have no problems looking at that and thinking, if I can't do something with these guys, then what was it? What was the point? But he's got to be given time. I mean, Hinshelwood was probably the last person anybody expected, especially around this time. We've just seen Mark Cooper been axed at Yeovil. Maybe Hinshelwood might end up there. You never know. I mean, it would be foolish of Yeovil not to consider that. Derek Adams at Morecambe, but he's been sacked about 3 times in that period of the takeover. But it's got to be now that Stuart Maynard has to be looked upon and trusted to get York back up there, challenging the Carlisles, the Rochdales, the Southends, and the owners have got to give him time. They have to give him time. If they don't, if they turn into people who will just hire and fire willy-nilly, then York will never get out of that league because consistency's got to be the key, and that's what they've got to give him. But Adam Hinshelwood will be back a lot quicker than people think.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us, Simon. The floor is now yours to discuss where your pod is, where we can find you, and a little snippet of what your pod is all about.
Okay, thanks. So we're a York City independent fans podcast. It's Same Old City is the name of the podcast. Myself and Ben, who, as I mentioned, was on a previous edition of this podcast as well. You can find us at Same Old City Pod on Twitter, as I still call it, at Same Old City on Blue Sky, or just search for Same Old City on any good podcast provider. We do sort of roughly fortnightly episodes where we some of it's the usual looking back, recapping what's happened in previous games, but we try and have a bit of a humorous, light-hearted content in there as well. Lots of in jokes, quite a lot of puns, which some people like, some people don't. But the episode titles are pretty much always a pun. And we like to get opposition fans on as guests as well to preview upcoming games and stuff, and always happy for opposition fans to get involved and give us a listen, apart from Oldham fans who they can stay away after some unsavory scenes last season. And quite frankly, if any Oldham fans are listening to this, then you just need to move on, forget about the National League. They still keep cropping up in replies all the time, Oldham fans, to tweets about York City. So don't know why. You think they would get over the fact that they're not playing us anymore. But yes, we like to have some good interactions with opposition fans, and seek us out, give us a listen, give us a review. Let us know
Absolutely,
what you
mate. We'll do. Mark, a pleasure as always. Simon, as I said, thank you for joining us. We've been the National League Lowdown. Until next time, when Dan will be back leading the Matchday review to Matchday 6. All the best, and we'll speak to you all again soon.
Cheers.